Hey everyone, welcome back to Startup or Shut Up, the podcast where we stop talking and start building. I'm your host, Nurse Colin. That's Colin with one L because I'm a short king, obviously. Today's episode is all about bold pivots, building community, and turning clicks into cash. This one's called Likes to Livelihood, and our guest is someone who lives that phrase out loud, from being in public service to running his own platform. Milo has taken a wildly unexpected path from politics to content creation, and in the process built a brand, a business, and a following that loves him for being 100% real. So if you've ever wondered if your passion, your identity, or even your selfies could become your full-time gig, stay with us. This one's fire. Milo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. That was quite the intro.
Oh, well, thank you. You're quite a person, so.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So let's kick off your story. You've gone from political candidate to creator. How did that pivot happen, and what skills did you carry over from politics into content creation?
Yeah, I'd say that I've had two different careers at this point. The first half, or the first career that I ever had, was holding elected office. I got elected when I was, I think, 24 years old, in my local area, onto a school board, and that was a lot of fun. I was very passionate about it, but it also happened just before the pandemic. So holding elected office during the pandemic presented its own set of challenges that honestly just took away, I think, from the experience and from the passion that I had for being in politics. There's also just something to be said about having to deal with Karens all the time, and it slows away at your soul, right? So after my term was up, I was kind of looking for a career change. I was finishing up my master's degree, and I wanted to try something new, and that new thing was porn. So I decided to become an adult film content creator, and it's gone pretty well so far. I've had a lot more fun. I'd say it's definitely a very different career path, but one of the surprising things about it is just how transferable the skills were from politics over to doing content creation. It's basically they're both different forms of entrepreneurship. In politics, you're constantly trying to get people to vote for you. You're knocking on doors. You're trying to convince people to buy into the platform that you're selling, and that's very similar to what I do now as a content creator, where I'm trying to market myself on X, on social media, on different platforms like Instagram, TikTok, to try to convince people to come check me out on the platforms where you have to buy a subscription, like OnlyFans or Just for Fans. So skills were very transferable: marketing, communication, even just sales, right? But it's definitely been quite the exciting journey, and it's been a very enjoyable one at that too.
Yeah, definitely. As far as driving up followers and driving everyone to be able to follow you as well, which platform do you find is the most successful to drive people to your paid platforms?
Yeah, I'd say that, you need kind of like a holistic approach to this because people are everywhere and you can't rely exclusively on one platform to find your following. That being said, finding a social media platform that is friendly to content that isn't safe for work can also be a challenge. So historically, I think Twitter or X have been, I think, one of the bigger platforms that most content creators use to try to drum up some followers or subscriptions. But even things like doing safe for work content on Instagram or on TikTok is really how some of the more successful content creators have managed to gain the success that they have because they've been able to master the skill of trying to engage people on across various social media platforms, not just one.
Cool, love that. And then though, let's talk a little bit about money as well. What moment was the moment you actually realized your online presence could actually become your livelihood?
Yeah, I think early on when I was considering switching over from politics over to doing porn, I knew that my term in politics would end in the fall. So in the spring, I guess I started doing almost like a test trial. I started an OnlyFans and I tried kind of like dipping my feet in the water just to see how financially sustainable it would be. And what I told myself was that if by the end of my term I am making as much money from doing porn as I am in politics, then that's when I would transition to doing it full time and putting all my energy and passion into it. That being said, what I was making in politics wasn't really that much, so the bar was kind of already set low. Um, Maybe I was kind of like setting myself up for that success anyway. But
Totally.
um, yeah, so but my point is, I guess there was kind of like a transition period of almost 6 months where I was doing both, and playing things pretty close to the chest, because had it ever gotten out there that I was doing porn at the same time as sitting on a school board, I think it probably would have made national, if not international, headlines, and it would have been like the butt of every late night comedian's monologue. But yeah, so there was definitely like a small transition period in there, and then when that uh, deadline came up, I was making more than I was in politics, and I decided to stick with it.
That's super cool. And how times have changed too. The stigma has really dropped. People are way more open now than ever before, which is
Mhm.
really awesome. And I'm sure you also have a super loyal audience. How do you connect with them and cultivate them to continue following you?
Yeah, I think, it's like any business, or when you're trying to build any brand, it's not just about marketing yourself, it's also about the brand identity itself. And if you want to maintain a strong and loyal base of customers and supporters, I think having a strong brand that people can really buy into is important. So for me, that brand means being super authentic and genuine when it comes to creating the content that I do. The fact that I genuinely enjoy the work that I do, I think translates from the camera to like what people are viewing, and I think that's how I've been able to build a solid base of, I think, long-term supporters and fans that seem to stick with it.
Cool, that's awesome. And being super genuine in that. And you're super wonderful and nice too,
Oh,
right?
thank you.
So
I
it
appreciate it. And I mean, the
goes,
content is good too.
yeah, totally.
Let's not forget that. But yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's break down like dollars and cents. What income streams have you experimented with, and which ones have proven sustainable for you as a creator?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say for me now, as a content creator, about 50 to 60% of my income comes from fan-based platforms like OnlyFans and Just for Fans. So the content that I make and curate myself brings in the majority of my income. About 25% of my income comes from doing studio work, like studio porn with Carnal Media. And then the rest would be miscellaneous, so little, jobs here and there, doing promo for some companies or collaborations with others. So for the most part, yeah, my biggest income stream would be the content that I make myself, but it wasn't always like that. I think like any business, it was difficult to see a significant return on investment early on, especially in the first year that I was trying to make my own content. I was definitely working way more than I was seeing money for. So, for example, like I was basically making pennies on the hour that I was trying to work. But it's not surprising, because it's like any small business. When you first start up, you're just dealing with a lot of costs at the beginning. The nice thing though about this type of career is that there wasn't a lot of overhead cost. The equipment that I needed to start doing content for OnlyFans and Just for Fans was already at my fingertips. It was like most people already have a cell phone, right? So the
Yep.
ability to basically start a business with very little overhead was very like the most I had to spend money on was like on a tripod or maybe some lighting or something, right? Um, so that was definitely, I think, a bonus. Is that the risk that I was carrying wasn't grounded on any investments that I had to go to the bank for. It was more, whether or not it's going to be financially sustainable long term, and whether or not it was going to be something that I was going to enjoy doing long term. But so far, I mean, it's been almost 3 years, and I'm still loving every moment of it.
That's awesome. And then as far as like monetizing your platform, how does that change your relationship with your audience? Like as far as like balancing your authenticity with your income goals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if there is an answer to that question. I think that for me, learning to prioritize the things that generate income maybe is where um, I think a lot of my attention lies. Like I get maybe dozens and dozens of messages on X every day, but I choose not to respond to them because time is money. Like I'd rather respond to people that are messaging me on the OnlyFans platform because they've already paid to subscribe, right? So
Totally.
I guess I'm a lot more careful about my time management and where I spend my time, because as an entrepreneur, I find that I'm constantly working. So I'm trying to work smarter, not harder, and trying to work on the things that tend to generate the most income because, you gotta make a living somehow. So I think
Totally.
if anything, yeah, I guess that would be my response to that question. The only other thing I guess I'll say is, it's not just about making money either. I think it's trying to find time to spend with the people that you love the most. I think will always kind of just like be an issue. But yeah, just being more and more mindful of I guess my own time management is something that I've tended to prioritize now more than ever.
Cool. Thank you for that. What's something like as far as perceptions we're going to talk about is what's something people totally misunderstand about earning money as an independent content creator? Someone that just has a day job kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people think that it's like a lot easier than it is. And that's because they only see like the tip of the iceberg. They
Hmm.
don't see all the work that goes on like behind the scenes, right? Like to them, it's just like, oh, you're filming yourself having sex and you're posting it and you're making money off that. Sure, but what you're not seeing is like the amount of hours that go into trying to schedule a collaboration with another content creator. You're not seeing the money that gets invested into travel and trying to like book hotels, find a venue, coordinate all that with everyone else. But filming content is the easy part. The hard part is what comes after the data management component, like staying organized with all of this content that you're trying to make. It's all about scheduling content. It's about um, editing and then coming up with a bunch of promos and teasers and figuring out how you're going to market that content. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and there's never enough time to like do it all, right? Because there's always going to be so many platforms that you can post to. So it's a never ending, I think, cycle of just like a lot of work that happens behind the scenes. But I think for the most part, people will only see like the teaser that you post on X or like the picture that you post on Instagram, and from their perspective, it looks like an easy job. But it's like any job, there's a work schedule that you have to follow. There's a regimen and like a work week that kind of keeps you busy. So I think just reminding folks that it's like any other job, if not more challenging, because you're managing your own business, and I think that comes with its own set of challenges.
Absolutely. It sounds like you need an assistant now.
Oh my gosh, I know. I definitely need a bigger workforce than myself. That's for sure.
Love that. Startup or Shut Up is brought to you by peerfounder.com, the launchpad for solo entrepreneurs, creators, and dreamers ready to build something real. We're dropping our community forum soon, a space to connect, share, and grow with others on the same grind. At peerfounder.com, you'll also get access to learning modules to level up your skills and our crowdlending platform where funding meets trust, not credit scores. And if you're an angel investor, this is your chance to get early on a movement that's changing how people access capital and community. So don't wait. Head to peerfounder.com. That's PeerFounder.com and join the waitlist today. Your idea isn't small, it just needs the right space to grow. Let's build it at peerfounder.com. So let's talk about like platform risk. The I know that like what was it? OnlyFans ended up trying to get away from adult content at one point, and then they backtracked on that as well. How do you approach things like an algorithm change or threat of being deplatformed? And what does building independence look like for you?
Yeah, so I think there's two schools of thought that come to mind. One is, to your point, the importance of diversifying income streams is really important in order to mitigate risks like that. So not primarily relying on OnlyFans as your primary income stream, working with other platforms that are subscription based to kind of diversify your income, which is why like having more than like having a just for fans is really important. Is one thought, and I think the other thought that I have is that it's not just to help minimize risk, but it's also to help stir growth in your business plan because you're constant. You need to be mindful, if not aware of new platforms that are becoming more popular that people are starting to use, and especially now with the introduction of artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of platforms, I think part of it needs to be, how do I evolve to, I guess, meet the needs of a changing market, while also at the same time minimizing the risk associated with the changing market. And again, that's like any business, right? I think a good example of that would be like just like studio porn. They weren't prepared, I think, for the introduction of OnlyFans and just for fans as models, for people to create their own content and sell it. Um, and that completely changed the industry. And I think a lot of studios weren't prepared for that change. So I guess my point is being able to uh, prepare for changes like that, I think would be super important because it also helps minimize risk.
Absolutely. And then you also mentioned trying to stay organized and using different platforms in order to do that. What tools or platforms that you use in order to stay organized and professional as a solo entrepreneur?
Yeah, look, growing up, I was like the worst at using Excel spreadsheets. Like, I just could not, like, they were so boring and I had absolutely no interest. But since I think starting my own business and taking on a more entrepreneurial hat 3 years ago, I've actually come to really appreciate how helpful spreadsheets are to staying organized. And the reality is I wouldn't be able to run my business whatsoever if I didn't have like the spreadsheets over spreadsheets over spreadsheets that I do to maintain this chaos in like a form of like organization. So yeah, I think that would be the biggest tool that I use is just spreadsheets. There's spreadsheets everywhere for for keeping track of everything. It's kind of fun though.
That's hilarious. My husband's an engineer and he loves spreadsheets. So if you ever need,
Yeah,
yeah, if you ever need any little assistance with that, you can always reach out to
I
David.
might take you up on that offer, Colin.
Awesome. Okay, so let's dream a little bit. Do you ever think about scaling your brand into something bigger than just you, like merch, podcast, media company?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have anything coming up here soon?
No, I mean, I think it's more that like I'm open to considering opportunities as they present themselves. I think because there's only so much time in a day, I kind of have to stay focused on the daily operations of the business while, keeping an eye out for how can I, you know, find ways to scale up the business. So, I think at the moment right now, I'm still kind of just focused on the day-to-day operations of the business, but definitely open to new ideas. If you've got any for me.
Definitely. We'll definitely chit chat about that. So we'll kind of circle back to your political background really quickly. Have you ever ever seen or wanted to utilize your platform as a space for advocacy or political expression again?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's in my future for sure. It's something that will happen inevitably. I think for the time being, the challenge is that when people subscribe to my porn, they subscribe because they want to get off. So the idea of like throwing politics in there or anything related to my personal life is something that I don't. I would need to find a way to do it separately or in tandem so that it doesn't interfere with the daily content that I produce. But there's people that like don't other content creators that don't realize that people don't care about what problems you're dealing with daily. And if sometimes people will post like some random rant on Twitter and it's like, oh, that kind of takes away from the fantasy.
Totally.
So I think, yeah, so I think that's definitely one thing that I'm very mindful of, but I think inevitably I think this will lead to some advocacy, at least on the sex work front for sure.
Definitely. Cool. And so you've also made your identity a powerful part of your brand. How do you navigate the boundaries between personal life, public persona, especially when your content is so identity centered?
Yeah, I think I just make sure that I make time for myself and for the people that I love the most. So um, I think the nice thing about I guess having my own place is that I'm able to kind of like create some separation between when I travel to film content and when I'm back at home. Uh, when I'm back at home, I don't film any content here. I kind of just like focus on the administrative stuff. But I also stopped grooming, so I end up kind of like taking on this like homeless look persona. I think it helps me be more incognito too. Like I don't really dress up either. I kind of just like put on some sweatpants and like a hoodie and just like try to blend in with the homeless population in the city. But uh, Yeah, I think it's just, I make sure that I always have time to myself so that I can catch up on sleep or, have some introverted time while also still making time to see some of my friends and the people that I love the most.
Awesome. Love that. So you've done both major studio stuff, your own content. Now at this certain point where you're at in your life and with your content, what if a major studio or company approached you with a partnership, what would it take for you to say yes now, and for you to still maintain creative control?
Hmm. Good question. So I think when it comes to studio work, it feels more like a collaboration. I think most creative control lies in their hands, which is totally fine because, I can't, I ain't got time. I think to kind of like help them with that all the way. But look, I have an exclusive contract with Carnal Plus, so there aren't many studios that are knocking on my door right now because they know that I have a contract already with an existing studio. But I still have other companies and firms that approach me every now and then to do like some sort of like promo for Pride, or they're celebrating like their company's anniversary. Um, so I think those are still things that I consider on a rolling basis. But for the most part, I think I approach things with a very collaborative approach, in the same way that I would any collaboration that I'm filming with another content creator. I kind of like to see what they bring to the table. I present what I bring to the table, and then we kind of like it morphs into something unique and special that I think people don't usually or have not seen before. And I think we're making art. That's part of the beauty of this business is that yes, it's a business, it's entrepreneurship, but it's also art. And I feel like an artist that is performing and kind of doing what he loves in order to get paid.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That totally makes sense. Okay, so last big one. What advice would you give to someone trying to turn their passion, identity, or niche into a full-time livelihood?
Yeah, I was giving some thought to this the other day because if you are already so busy with a 9 to 5, there's only so much time in the day to explore other opportunities. So I guess there's two thoughts to this question. One is um, being mindful of windows of opportunity for being able to pursue these passions. So for me, because it happened during a transition period in my life, I was able to fully dive into this as a career and really explore it as a passion, transitioning from one job slash career slash school over to something new. So I think just being mindful of those windows of opportunities as they present themselves. So if someone, for example, gets laid off work, for example, that's a window of opportunity that could present itself for like exploring one of those passions, right? Um, I guess the other school of thought that I have is, you could also just do it on the side and see what happens. It could take off, it could become something bigger than you ever expected, and that could create its own window of opportunity for fully deep diving and kind of like pursuing it as a career if it's something that you end up really enjoying. But I think testing the waters is important either way because you might think you like it, and then it turns out you don't when you realize just how much work is really involved with trying to get it up in the air. So that's my response to your question.
Love that. Yeah, and I would also add to that too. Don't be afraid of making mistakes and having a little failure because you learn so much from that, and it takes you in a
Mhm.
different direction, helps you pivot, and just really gain that opportunity to bet on yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've shared so much. Thank you. Now it's time for your shut up moment. That moment where you stopped talking, stopped waiting, and just went for it. What was your shut up moment?
Hmm. Good question.
Kind of like that time where you kind of like swallowed that fear inside of you and just went for it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that shut up moment was when I started showing my face on OnlyFans and on Twitter, because it was still while during that transition period where I was still holding elected office. So at a certain point, I kind of just like decided to absorb the risk, acknowledge the risk, but also know that it's difficult to get ahead in life if you don't take risk. So while I was playing things pretty close to the chest, I still kind of like decided to go for it. and really try my best at like building that business. So I think that would be that moment for me is when I decided to you know be more genuine and authentic and actually show my face in the content that I was making.
That totally makes sense. That's a big all feet together jumping into the deep
Oh
end.
yeah, jumping in the deep end. You know how it is.
Okay, so all right, so time for a juicy fun fact before we close out. Did you know that OnlyFans, the platform that's helped thousands of creators earn real income, is reportedly up for sale, and the price tag is a staggering $1.8 billion.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not bad. Do you wanna go in on it with me?
totally. That would be great. Um, so the OnlyFans is owned by a UK-based company, and the CEO owns 100% of it. And since taking over the platform in 2018 when it exploded, he brings in over $1 billion in revenue.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
yeah. That sounds about right.
And so it's really helped creators like you, and to bring your livelihood and bring things together. And like as far as your take on that, what do you think that transition is gonna occur? Because private equity firms in the United States are going to be taking or that have proposed to offer. How do you feel that that's going to transition things away from like the owner itself that has 100% ownership to equity firms?
Yeah, I can't say that I've honestly given it much thought. I think that there's always something that is going to happen over the horizon, and so I try not to distract myself with things like that. Only because I find that it's not worth my time. Like, what I like, if I give it more thought, what I could consider a fear is something that could make me scared, only for it to not happen. So then it's like, oh, I wasted time now being scared or giving it certain thoughts. So I think I'm gonna go at it kind of like on a day by day basis and kind of just like figure it out as it happens. So if it becomes an issue, we'll deal with it then when we cross that bridge. But I think for now, my focus will be on diversifying income streams and working with different platforms to kind of like help minimize any potential risk that happens in the future.
Good advice. Yeah, don't dwell on it.
Yeah,
Love that.
yeah.
Um, so that's why creators like you are building more than just content. You're building ecosystems. Milo, thank you again so much for being here and being on my second episode and for keeping it so real. You've
My
shared
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
absolutely. You shared your pivots, your wins, your fears, your strategy, and I know that this episode is going to speak to a lot of different people who are wondering if they can make the leap too. So thank you.
Yeah.
And Milo, if our listeners want to check you out online, where can they find you?
Listeners can find me on multiple platforms, including Instagram, Milo Miles X, and they can also find me on Twitter, OnlyFans, or Just for Fans with the same handle, Blue Sky as well, Milo Miles XXX.
If you love this episode, tap follow, leave us a review, and send it to someone who's ready to turn their side hustle into center stage. You can follow me on Instagram. That's Nurse Colin with one L. Startup or Shut Up drops every other Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe. Next up on Startup or Shut Up, dropping July 1st, what happens when life completely falls apart and you decide to film it? Meet Marissa, a TikTok creator and children's book author who went viral not by being perfect, but by being honest. Her journey is raw, real, and beautiful. It's about falling in love with yourself again, one piece at a time, and helping others do the same. If you've ever felt stuck, broken, or like your story doesn't matter, this one's for you. Until then, shut up and start up.